this, the fourth and final installment of my webinar, The State of the Union, I describe probably the part that was hardest for me of all to write and discuss, which is the state of the American people. I mean, the United States people, the American people, are just so broken up. And I go into a deep dive on that particular issue in this excerpt. If you want to see the full webinar, the link is in the description below. Hope you enjoy it. Anyway, that's what's going on in the economy, foreign affairs, and internal affairs, right? So let's talk about the people of America. And this here, my friends and neighbors, this is a really depressing part. The people in America are broken, and they're broken. Their spirit is broken. The endless lockdowns, that did it, you know. The endless rioting and looting, that did it too, okay? The lockdowns, because people with a little bit of brains, they realize that these lockdowns are purposeless. Masks are stupid. What is it? At the beginning of the pandemic, they said that masks were useless, and then later that you need masks, and now it's like you need to use 2 masks, or even better, 3. What the fuck is that all about? And if you take the vaccine, well, why would you need the mask? Because you take the vaccine so that you're immune from it and you don't pass it along. And so why am I using a mask? The mask is to prevent me from getting the disease or passing it along, but I get the vaccine, but I still have to wear the mask. So what's the point of the vaccine? See? People aren't stupid. They know that the lockdowns and all that shit is just bullshit. They know that the rioting happens because of BLM, because they're left-wing, and cities are getting wiped out by this rioting and looting, and they know that the media is lying to them. The trust in the media is at all-time low. Yeah. Now, the worst part is that, see, COVID wiped out the entrepreneurs. COVID, because the government decided to fund the essential businesses like Costco and Walmart, like the big companies, Amazon and shit, and force small entrepreneurs to close. And see, these guys, they closed and they never reopened. Restaurant owners, small shops and whatnot. See, these people are the backbone of the American economy. And what's key, that's something that you have to understand. And I'll tell you this as a former small business owner myself, because I have owned and run businesses. And when I was running film production, I'll tell you, when you fail in a business, even if it's not your fault, okay? Even if it's like, I don't know, your business got struck by lightning or whatever the fuck, right? I mean, just like, or like this, like some random pandemic. See, the emotional toil is enormous. When you fail, okay, even if it's not your fault, even if you did everything right and it was just bad luck, it takes you a number of years, plural, to get over it. It takes you a long time to get over it, over that failure. And what happens is that, and I'm not going to lie because it's happened to me, that once you fail in a big way, jumping into the pool again, you're really scared. And sometimes you just don't feel like doing it. Or you hedge your bets, you don't go whole hog. Because, see, you have a business and you jumped into it and you gave it your all, and it fails. And let's assume here that it's not your fault, that you did everything right. And you're a capable guy, okay? I mean, when the business was going, it was making money. You were doing well. But it fails for whatever reason. You're going to be very hesitant. Even if you were successful, you are not going to want to put all of your emotional chips because you're going to be afraid. Because, see, when you start a business, it's something that people don't tell you. See, when you start a business, it's like your child, and you love your child, and you give it your all. You're giving all of your time and attention to your business. You're putting so much of your emotional chips into your business. You want it to succeed, and you see it flourish. You see it succeed. You see it earning money, and it just fills you with joy. I mean, it's one of the most fantastic and satisfying feelings. That feeling of walking into your office that you're paying for, your business, and all those fucking people who are there, they work for you. You are the guy. And they answer to you, and they do what you want, and they are all working towards your vision. Man, you feel fucking on top of the world. You feel like $1 million. I mean, you really do. And when it fails, when that's all gone, the cost, the emotional cost, is catastrophic. I know a lot of guys who never recovered. I mean, it just broke them flat out. That they could never get back on the horse. And I have to admit that in many ways, I think that that's what happened to me. I think that in many ways, the failure of my film production company, I never again invested that much of myself in any activity or business ever again, never again, because the cost was too great. Because I never imagined that it would hurt so bad to lose, that it would hurt so fucking much. I never imagined, but it does. It's I hope to God and knock wood that nothing ever happens to my child, but I can imagine that it would be like losing a child, like losing several children, like losing all of your children. Okay, losing your business, because in a sense it is, because if you lose your business, the thing that you've devoted all your time and effort to, you don't recover, or you not easily. Okay, and so why am I bringing this up? All these entrepreneurs, they are not going to start a business again. Not for a long, long time. It's a whole class of people, of essential people, those people with brains and balls and initiative and good ideas. They are not going to restart. Not for a long goddamn time, because it hurt too much. Okay? A significant number of them will never recover. That's a fact, and this is why this whole thing is catastrophic. And the fact that it wasn't thought out, that the bureaucrats just decided, oh, lock it down, just crash the economy. It doesn't matter. We have to save lives. But see, they saved lives from COVID, perhaps. That remains to be seen. In a lot of cases, it's like, no, they didn't, right? They might have saved lives from the disease, but they killed the lives of the entrepreneurs, of that whole class of people. And a lot of those people are never coming back. They are never getting back on the horse. And that's a catastrophe. I mean, a real, honest to God catastrophe for the United States. So anyway, going back to this. So that's one problem, okay? The cities are fucking falling apart. Infrastructure, crime, drug addiction, the whole 9 yards. The cities are just falling apart, and we know it. Okay? I mean, you got like in San Francisco, you got people crapping all over the place and drug needles all over the place. You got a homeless problem in LA that's fucking biblical at this point, right? Now, you've got uncontrolled migration from from Central America. Why? Because see, these people come from shithole countries. And don't give me this shit that it's racist to call them shithole countries, because they are. Because I've been there, and I can tell you, yes, Guatemala, Honduras, they're all shitholes. Costa Rica, yes, lovely beaches, but they're shitholes. Nicaragua, fucking, what's worse than a shithole? The vomitous hole? I don't know. What's worse than a shithole? You tell me, and that's what Nicaragua is, right? I mean, I know, okay? I know for a fact. So anyway, these fucking people, they come from all these shitholes. Well, even the United States going down the tubes is a step up for these fucking people. And so these fucking people, they come into the United States and they don't have a job. So they drive down the price of labor for the people who already live in the United States. They make a mess because they don't have the culture. They don't understand the system or anything of the sort. They pull down America. Simple as that. And you don't like it and you say it's racist. Fine, I'm a racist. I'm a racist. Yeah, I fucking hate Latinos. Yeah, fuck them. Fuck them all. Fuck all Latino people. The little brown people from South America, fuck them all. Yes, I'm a racist fucking pig, but I'm also telling you the truth. These fucking people pull down America. Something awful. Okay? And then you have the other issue is that you have extreme income and wealth disparity that is not connected to effort or ingenuity. There are a lot of fucking people who are working their ass off every fucking day. They got all these gig economy jobs, Deliveroo or Uber Eats or whatever the fuck. They're working their asses off. Yeah, I mean, really working hard. And they barely have enough to eat. I mean, they're barely scraping by. Mm-hmm. And these people, they're fucking demoralized. I mean, all these things add up to demoralization. All of these things, okay? Then you have the extreme political polarization that's going on. I mean, all these things that I point out to you, the immigration, the extreme income and wealth disparity, the cities falling apart. I mean, they live like garbage. And I'm talking nice neighborhoods, man. I've seen pictures of Brentwood out in LA where I used to live. Nice upper class neighborhood, right? Now it's a fucking shithole. 10 cities all over the fucking place, right? COVID wiping out the entrepreneurs, the riots and the looting. And by the way, those cities that got rioted and looted, right? Kenosha, Minneapolis, those cities are never coming back. It's like Newark and Detroit. Newark and Detroit, when they had the race riots in the 60s, they never recovered. Because cities that get rioted like that, they never come back. Look at South Central LA. Yeah. The riots in 91, it never came back. They never do. Once you have those riots, it's like it kills the soul of that place. Because people are afraid to do anything, to set up a new business, to make something nice. They're afraid. And with good reason, because it happened once, it could happen again. So they decide not to. And so that place never recovers. Okay? So anyway, apart from all this demoralization going on in the States that's breaking the American people, you got extreme political polarization. And here's a key issue. You have essentially half of the population who believes that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are illegitimate leaders of America. Because half voted against Biden, but a full 70% of those people think that Biden cheated. So he's illegitimate. And here's the crazy ass part. Okay. When I read this, I did a double take. Look it up yourself. You don't have to take my word for it. Of the half that voted for Biden, a full 30% believe he cheated. 30% of his own voters think that he cheated. Or not he himself, but the people around him cheated. You add up that 30% and that 70%, yeah? Basically, half the population, 1/3 Democrat, 2/3 Republican, think that Joe Biden is illegitimate, that he did not earn his seat. Okay? That is a toxic, that is a disaster. Okay, because see, if it were just the right-wingers who thought that Joe Biden is illegitimate, well, you could discount it. But you have a sizable portion of the Democrats who are not stupid. They see the election. They saw what happened in Ohio and Florida, the bellwether states, that they went solidly for Trump. And then all these key states, these battleground states, it was just in the major cities, just the major cities controlled by Democrats, controlled by minority Democrats, i.e. blacks. And all of a sudden they found all these fucking votes. And in one fucking state, they had more votes than actual citizens, than registered voters, for crying out loud. I think it was Wisconsin. I mean, come on, man. Everybody knows that it was cheating. It was a lie. Okay? Half the population, the voting population at least, thinks that it was a stolen election. That is a disaster. Okay? I mean, whatever you think of Trump, whatever you think of Biden, you cannot have a functioning democracy where half the voters think that the guy who won cheated. That's a disaster. Okay? I mean, like when Nixon won in 68 and 72, nobody thought that he had cheated. Okay? They might not have liked it, but nobody thought he cheated. When Reagan won, when Clinton won, he won with a plurality, not a majority. Okay? Because Ross Perot siphoned off votes from George H.W. Bush, right? But the Republicans never thought that Clinton was illegitimate. They didn't like it, but they were like, well, them's the rules, them's the breaks. He won. Fuck Ross Perot, but that's life. That was it. Nobody thought that Clinton was illegitimate. They didn't like the son of a bitch, but nobody thought he was illegitimate, right? But here they do. And that's a disaster, okay? Because nobody will believe anything that Joe Biden says, and they won't necessarily listen to him or do what he wants or take the country in perhaps a necessary direction, okay? Because this isn't just in the regular people. This cuts across all socioeconomic levels and includes people in the government, because a lot of people in the government voted for the other guy, and they don't think that this guy, Biden, is the actual president, and they can actually throw a monkey wrench into the works. See what I'm saying? Okay, so the other problem that we're having is the wokesters, right? A sizable percentage of the population believe that the U.S. is an evil, racist country, all of whose institutions should be destroyed. Now, you can blame this on Obama, as far as I'm concerned. Obama and the wokesters. Obama when the wokester shit started raising its ugly head in the when did it really start happening? Like in the early teens, right? He should have gone up on stage in front of the cameras and said, I am a black man. My middle name is fucking Hussein. Huh? I am a black man and I've been elected president of the United States by the white guy. So anybody who says that there's racism in America is full of shit. He should have nipped the wokester crap in the bud, but he didn't. And the reason he didn't was because the wokesters would rally the minorities to vote for him and vote for the candidates that he wanted. And that's the truth. And Obama is the man most responsible for this wokester shit, because he's the one who could have stopped it early, stopped it and just snuffed it out, you know? And he should have. It was his moral responsibility to do so, and he didn't. And you want to blame the wokesters? Blame Obama. Because that motherfucker was twice elected president by white people. So to claim that America is a fucking racist country is bullshit. He should have been at the forefront. He should be on Tucker Carlson every fucking night saying, these wokesters are wrong, they're evil, there is no racism in America. Of course there are racist people here and there, but America is not a racist country. It is not systemically racist. That's all bullshit. He should have said that. He should be on Tucker Carlson every fucking night, nodding along with Tucker and saying, yes, Tucker, you're right, and you're right for blah, 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 these reasons and so on. He should be there every fucking night, and he's not, because he gets benefits from it. Yeah? Because this wokester shit rallies up the minority people, and they vote for him or the people that he wants in office, in different offices. And that's the reality of Barack Hussein Obama. He's a piece of shit. Yeah, that's what I think. And the damage is done. Now it's too late. It's a genie that's out of the bottle. There's no way to bring that shit back. Okay? Anyway, there's extreme cultural atomization, not polarization, atomization, which is just as bad. Okay? Because, see, in the culture, they always say that politics is downstream of culture. They're absolutely right. See, when you have a culture that is more or less monolithic, then everybody is more or less on the same page. And they all have more or less the same priorities. And what happens is that when everybody has more or less the same priorities, they all more or less arrive at the same solutions. And the differences between the solutions are very minor. Okay? That's the whole point of culture. You want to have a monolithic culture. The more monolithic the culture, the better. Because what happens is that if we are all culturally homogenous, we're all viewing the world with the same cultural baggage, we're going to see the problems more or less the same and arrive at similar solutions. Like I said, there will be a left-wing party and a right-wing party, but the differences will be very minor, okay? Because culturally, everybody is more or less the same, so they view the problems more or less the same, and they view the solutions to the problem as more or less the same. But the problem is that American culture has become atomized. And this is because the mainstream institutions got captured by the wokesters that started pushing their bullshit. And so people tuned out and started looking for their own cultural bubble. Okay? That was one problem. The other problem was that the cultural institutions started losing credibility because of wokeness, because of extreme left-wing ideology that made them look foolish. Okay? And when I talk about cultural institutions, I'm also talking about the press. Okay, they pushed things that are demonstrably not true. I mean, remember that guy who was standing in front of a burning McDonald's or Wendy's or something, and he was like, "Oh yeah, it's mostly peaceful protests." Fuck off, man. So anyway, this guy, the cultural institutions have lost all credibility, and so people don't go to them. They find their own cultural leaders. The fact that you guys here are listening to me. That means that you're alienated from the mainstream culture. You don't want to listen to the mainstream culture. So you go looking for a guy like me, somebody who's going to tell you things that are true. But the thing is, see, I'm not a mainstream guy, of course. I don't have a particularly large audience. And so you are an example of this atomized culture. And me too. I mean, we're all in the same boat together. Okay. We're an example of this atomized culture. And there are lots of other groups like us where you have like one YouTuber or whatever and his audience, But the audience, the YouTuber might be spouting all kinds of insanity, flat Earth, and just beyond the clouds of Antarctica, that's where the Earth drops off, and there's turtles all the way down. You got crazy ass shit like that, because I'm sure that there are some people, left wingers, who are listening to me, would say, "Oh, this CRP guy is nuttier than a loon, for crying out loud," right? I mean, that's what's going on. Everybody's getting atomized, and nobody's even aware of one another. Okay. I mean, there are channels that have millions of viewers, of subscribers, that I've never heard of until somebody brings them up, right? Everybody is so totally atomized. And that is a severe problem. Okay. Because if everybody's atomized, then everybody has different points of view on the common problems that are afflicting the American people. And therefore, since they have radically different views on the problems rather that are affecting the American people, they're going to have radically different solutions that are just incompatible with one another. See, you need that kind of cultural cohesion in order to arrive at solutions that are politically possible in a democracy. But we don't have that anymore. See, and this is a disaster. This is fucking horrible. Okay, so yeah, let me continue here on my outline. Yeah, and so people are going into these myriad cultural bubbles, and they are ignoring everybody else, and they are not arriving at a common consensus to the problems. And so the whole country is just atomizing. Just imagine, everybody just splitting apart from one another. On top of that, finally, education, which in the American mythology and the American mythos, education was considered so important because it was the one leveler. You got a good education at a public school, you could go to college, you could make a life for yourself, right? But everybody knows that education today is overpriced bullshit. And it's gelded the future leadership class, even as it's created accreditation inflation. That's something I just coined. Okay, what do I mean by gelding the leadership class? Well, for the people to go to the best universities, see, the leadership classes come from the best universities, right? The most prestigious ones, the Ivy League, Stanford, MIT, that group of universities, right? University of Chicago. They come from those universities. But to get into those universities, right, the young kids in high school, they got to jump through so many hoops, and it weeds out all the independent thinkers. See, the people, the guys who make it through that sieve, right? Think of it like a sieve. When you like squeeze out juice, right, from a fruit, from a lemon or an orange or something, right? And you get all this pulp and seeds and all this other shit. And so you put a sieve over the glass or over the jug where you're going to pour all the juice, right? And you pour all the juice. And so the sieve catches all the seeds and the pulp and what have you, and you just get nice juice at the bottom, right? Well, see, these universities, in order to get into them, you have to have all these extracurriculars, you have to have all these activities, you have to have these great grades and all these courses, AP and whatnot, SAT scores, right? And you have to write the right essay, the essay that basically says that you're oppressed somehow or some bullshit like that, right? And so it weeds out, it acts as a sieve and weeds out the original people, the smart people who are unorthodox, the people who think outside the box. Those people get weeded out. The sieve catches them and rejects them. Okay? And who gets into the top tier colleges? The people who are very compliant, who are extremely individualistic because they're only out for themselves. And yet at the same time, they are extremely conformist. They go along with whatever is demanded of them because that's how they've gotten ahead all their lives. See? And they're not even the brightest people. See? Because the really bright people, they will naturally rebel or question any institution or any program because it's built into them, because the bright people are smart enough to realize when something is just bullshit. See? And so you have the second tier people going to the top tier university. The second tier people who are highly individualistic, i.e., they don't give a shit about anybody else, but they are highly conformist. And this is what's happened over the last 30 years. I mean, I saw this in the early 90s. I've been seeing this of these highly conformist people who they don't give a shit about anybody except themselves and yet they never, ever, ever have an independent opinion. They always go with the crowd. It's fucking tragic, okay? And they're second tier. That's the thing that I think that disappointed me the most, because when I went to university, I went to an Ivy League school, and I thought that I was going to hang out with some of the best and the brightest, the smartest people around, right? Because I consider myself fairly smart. And the people I hung out with that I saw there, I mean, and I looked everywhere for them. They were kind of stupid. Bottom line, they were kind of stupid. And none of them amounted to much, okay? I mean, I kept up with them. I get like regular updates from the alumni magazine, shit like that, right? And most of these fucking people, they never amounted to much, yeah, because they didn't have the brains. And the guys who did have the brains, they never got the education to amount to much. And see, the education system in the United States is almost deliberately weeding out and destroying the lives of the best and the brightest in America. And that's what's going on. And the best and the brightest in America, they know it. They know it. Okay? And a lot of these best and brightest, you know where they gravitate? They become YouTubers. They become Twitch streamers. Yeah, because they got the brains and shit, right? And they're scattered around who knows where, but they're never going to get to position of power of leadership. They're never going to put their hands on the levers of power and steer the ship. They're never going to be allowed to do that because they don't get the accreditation. Because that's the other problem going on. See, we got this accreditation inflation where everybody wants to have like these degrees. They want, first it was, get a high school diploma. That was back in the early 20th century. But then it was after the Second World War was get a college degree. And then it became get an MA, and now everybody's getting an MA or 2 MAs or getting a PhD. And they go to school for ages and ages and ages. And what happens? They don't have kids. They postpone having kids. They postpone starting their lives because they're getting all of this fucking education. I mean, it takes, the average PhD student 5 to 6 years to get the fucking PhD. That's on top of the 4 years of college. So it's 10 to 12 years of education before they finally get the PhD. And all that time, they're poor students. And all that time, they're 30 by the time they're done with this shit? If you're a woman, your fertility window is narrowing awfully quickly. So you decide, I'm not going to have kids. I'm just going to pursue my career. I've invested so much in my career, I can't give it up. And so they pursue a stupid career that's not particularly successful, and they don't have kids. And you see, this is what's going on in America. That's what's going on right now. God damn. So can we turn America around? Can we turn it around? Can we bring it back from the brink? Can we make it happen once again? Spoiler alert, I don't think it's going to happen. Okay? I don't think it's going to happen. And I'll tell you why. First of all, see, what would turn America around? Well, as I see it, 3 things. One of 3 things, okay? An existential crisis. I'm talking like a war or some major crisis that would get everybody to wake up, just like, clean up, get their shit together, and really all band together and fight this major crisis, an existential crisis. Not in the philosophical sense, but in the sense of like this crisis threatens your very existence. Okay, that's one possibility. The second is a Pinochet, a authoritarian nationalist who takes over, straightens up the ship, and leaves. Because that's a key issue that people forget about Pinochet, is that he was a dictator in Chile, right? He was an authoritarian nationalist. And when he decided to leave, he left. He went home. Yeah, that's the thing. The left it drives them nuts because he went home. And that was that, That's the second possibility. And the third possibility is that there is some catastrophic random natural disaster that pulls everybody together. Because you know how in a natural disaster that affects a whole people, everybody like pulls together and it's like a refresh, a reset, and in a good way, not the nasty Davos kind of global reset bullshit. But I'm talking in like a healthy way. When there's like an earthquake in Chile, and there have been several. I remember the last big one in 2010. It happened the day before my birthday. And, it shook the whole fucking country. It was a 8.8 earthquake. Holy fucking shit. Scared the shit out of everybody, right? A few people, unfortunately, died because buildings, no matter how well built, if you're under a fault line and the fault goes, your building is toppling over and you're dying. And there ain't a hell of a lot you can do about it, okay? And so, of course, there were deaths, but thankfully not that many. Actually, the most deaths that happened were because of the tsunami and wiped out people on the beach. Okay, like I think about 500 people or so were killed by the tsunami. In the inland, away from the shore, it was a lot less. It was like something like I think it was like 73. I want to say something like that, and a lot of them were heart attacks. But like the bulk of the deaths were because of the tsunami. Anyway, um, what you call it? When that happened, that pulls everybody together. Okay, so a natural disaster, that's a national disaster, a national natural disaster. Sorry, that pulls people together. Okay, so let's go through each of them one by one. Okay, now an existential crisis, a major crisis that would make Americans rally around the flag and bury political, social, cultural divides. That won't happen. America's foreign enemies understand that they gain more by undermining the US than by squaring off face to face against the US. See, the Chinese and the Russians are not stupid, especially the Russians. They're never going to put themselves in a position that they go head to head. And if they do allow them that to happen, they're going to make sure to hit so hard and so viciously that the Americans are like, okay, let's just let them slide and let's move along. Okay. That's what would happen. And it would have to be in a way that did not cause that many deaths. Okay. I mean, I don't know. This is all like hypothetical, but the Chinese and the Russians, they're smart this way. They're not going to put themselves in the position that they go face to face, head to head with the Americans, because they know that doing that is actually falling into the hands of the neocons, the warmongers. They understand that. And so my thinking is that, before American troops ever deploy to Ukraine or anywhere near Ukraine, the Russians will have taken it over. I mean, if it gets to that point, the Russians will have taken over. Did it with Taiwan. I mean, if there isn't even a hint that the Americans are positioning themselves to actually physically defend Taiwan, the Chinese will attack Taiwan preemptively and take it over before the Americans have troops there. Okay? Because the Chinese and the Russians realize that going head to head would hurt them and shore up American sentiment and get the Americans back on track. So that's not going to happen. See? That's not going to happen. And frankly, the United States is such a big boat that there isn't going to be any kind of existential crisis. There isn't. I mean, not a man-made crisis, okay? Now, a Pinochet, was that possible? A leader, dictator with the political strength and will to wipe out the wokesters and get the whole thing to fly right once again. That might happen. I don't think so. I think that there are too many things in this right. The only guy that I can think of right now who could potentially be this guy is Ron DeSantis. He seems to be like a pretty tough cookie. And he seems to be, on track to be the guy in 2024 for the Republicans. But that remains to be seen. At this time, I don't see any figure that could really take the reins and wipe out the wokesters, whether by hook or by crook. Yeah, I don't see that at this time. And finally, a catastrophic random natural disaster. Well, not another pandemic, by the way. I'm talking about like a giant volcano in Yellowstone, or just some catastrophic hurricane that wipes out the whole fucking country, if that's possible. Okay, some natural disaster whose effects would be long-lasting and which would wipe away all the bullshit covering America. Well, the thing is, you can't order up a natural disaster like you order fucking pizza now, can you? Okay, it's not something that you could have like a policy prescription for it, right? So it's possible. Anything's possible. A purple kangaroo can pop up right there in front of you, right next to your computer, and start talking to you in my voice, right? Is it likely? No. Possible, but not likely. See? I mean, you see my point. You can't be betting for something like this to happen. Okay? Yeah, and the pandemic, I think that we're all pooped out with all the pandemics, right? So anyway, what might happen? Well, my thinking is this. And this is all pure speculation on my part, but I'm thinking that we're going to have like a nice economic collapse, because I actually don't think it's because of the overprinting of money and all the other shit. I think it's just the problem of the American people. They've just thrown in the towel. And I think that's the thing that they've just given up. They're like, okay, enough. Just enough, you know? And I think that there's going to be a nice little economic collapse and that a woke dictator is going to emerge. I think that some woke dictator, not Obama, but some wokester fuck has been in the background, and he hasn't emerged yet, like a Lenin type figure. Somebody who's known in those circles, but is like laying low. And he's going to emerge, and he's going to be the tyrant, okay? And he's going to bring a reign of terror. Yeah, he's going to bring a reign of terror, and it's going to be like nothing ever seen before. Because the Americans, whenever they do anything, they go to extremes, okay? Because, you know, America number one. So whatever they decide to do, the Americans are always the best at it, the most extreme at it, the most effort at whatever it is that they decide to do, okay? And so that's what I think is going to happen. The woke dictator, the American woke dictator, is going to be trouble, okay? There could be. The neocons might get their way and decide to fuck with the wrong enemy, okay? I'll tell you right now, if they fuck with China or Russia over things that they really care about, over like Taiwan, over reunification of the Russian people, the Americans are going to get their asses handed to them. I mean, they're gonna get wiped the fuck out. I mean, it's gonna be, blown out of the fucking water. I'm talking BTFO to the fucking moon. You know what I'm saying? And in that circumstance, it could be that some crazy American leader decides to use nuclear weapons. And then all bets are off, okay? I mean, all fucking bets are off. Then anything can happen, okay? If some insane woke dictator, or you know, Kamala Harris, you know, she could wind up being president, and she's a fucking moron. And, you know, the Chinese say sink some aircraft carrier group, which is highly possible. I mean, those fuckers, you know, unless you're on tip-top shape and tip-top form with the best air defense and all that shit, they can get sunk pretty badly, you know? It's happened before. Okay, look at World War II. So if the Chinese sink, like, say, the USS Nimitz or some shit like that, you know, just blow it out of the fucking water, Kamala Harris might say, fuck it, let's use nukes, tactical nukes, little ones. And then all bets are off, you know? And they pull that shit, and the Chinese are going to say, fuck you, and they'll, you know, blow away Anchorage or some shit just to prove the point. And then it could escalate, and God knows what could happen in those circumstances. I mean, anything can happen, man. Okay? I mean, you got to understand, anything could fucking happen. Because, see, when you have incompetent people running shit, anything can happen. Okay? So, anyway, the worst of all, I think, or perhaps it's the best of all ends, really, would be just a slow slide to the bottom, overrun by foreign immigrants who share none of the American values. Yeah, that slow slide to the bottom, just overrun by immigrants. That's how Rome ended, by the way. You know, I mean, people who are interested in history, you should check out Roman history. That's how the Romans ended. They imported so many slaves from their conquered lands, and these slaves had, you know, none of the Roman values, right? And eventually they just overwhelmed them, okay? And Rome wound up having emperors that weren't even properly Roman, okay? And you know, you see all the people in Italy today, right? Brown skin and all that. There's a famous speech in True Romance, you know, where Dennis Hopper is talking to Christopher Walken and telling him that, you know, all Sicilians are, you know, half eggplant. That's like a slur against black people. Well, it's true. It's true. The Italian peninsula, right, including Sicily, was overrun by slaves from North Africa, from the Middle East, from the Gaul, you know, and all these slaves intermingled and created the Italian people and overwhelmed what was Rome. And Rome just, you know, was subsumed by this immigrant population that did not share Roman values. Okay? I'm not talking about genetics or any shit like that. I'm talking about simply that they were a foreign people that did not share Roman values and didn't even understand Roman values. They had nothing in common with Roman values. That's how Rome ended. It took a while. You know, they lasted a good long while. The Eastern Roman Empire fucking lasted until the early 20th century, if you think about it. But, you know, in the end, all gone. You know, in America, that might be the end of it. You know, overrun by foreign people who do not share its values. Okay, and that seems to be happening now, by the way. But yeah. So anyway, that is the State of the Union of the United States, and I know that it's a fairly depressing presentation, but you got to look at shit square in the eye. You know, you got to look at shit, the ugly shit, and look at it and examine it, and just decide, oh, this is it. Okay. I am very nervous about the Biden administration. I think that they're idiots. I think that they're morons. I mean, they're bigger fools than Trump even. Okay, because you have people who are corrupt, and you have people who think that they know better. Okay, and that's the problem. Well, no, actually, you have three groups. Like I said before, you've got corrupt people. That's the Biden family and that whole crowd of corruptos. I mean, they're just horrible people. Then you got the Obama people who think that they know better. Okay, I mean, the Obama people, they actually think that. See, if you disagree with some policy of theirs, it's because either you're stupid or they haven't explained it slowly enough for you. Okay, and they think it's a mistaken messaging. They cannot conceive that you might have different priorities and therefore disagree with them. Right? They can't conceive that. They are so arrogant in that regard. That's typical of all the Obama people. They think that if you don't agree with them, it's because of their bad messaging. And if they revamp the messaging and revamp that messaging several times in different versions of the same message, and you still disagree, then you're stupid or evil. Okay? And then there are the fucking communists. That's the third group. And those fucking communists, right? They just want the whole fucking thing to burn because they hate it, because they hate themselves, because they're sick people. Okay, all communists are the same, by the way. Okay, in Chile, in Nicaragua, or in Venezuela, in Russia, the communists are all the same. They are people who hate themselves. Okay, and they want to destroy everything because they're just full of hate. And that's the funny thing. See, whenever you hear them say, "Oh, that's hate speech," and those people are full of hate, no, it's projection. Understand? When they accuse me of hate speech or something like that, I ignore it because I know what's going on. They are projecting. They are the ones full of hate. And they are the ones who are desperately trying to tear down America, which is a tragedy. Anyway, there we go. That's been my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me invite you all to join in. I'm putting out there the... So that was it. That was the weekly webinar of last Sunday, April 18th. I mean, after that point, I brought on people who'd been audience members. I brought up, I think, about a dozen or so, and we talked for about an hour. I took questions and comments, and it was a lot of fun. But that's the typical weekly webinar that I do on Patreon. So here I am, once again, shilling for Patreon. If you like this content, please subscribe. Link is in the description below. And if you don't subscribe, that's perfectly fine. And I hope you enjoyed this webinar. Take it easy.